This video is going to be about storage devices. Storage more for archiving as opposed to everyday data usage. We're going to look at several different storage devices, and hopefully after the end of this video you might decide to archive your data differently than you did prior to watching this video. To get things started, we can see there's a bunch of SD cards up there. These are the least expensive. You can get 8 gig, a 2 gig, and a 512 megabyte SD card for basically about $5. The prices go up as you get the 16 gigabyte cards as well as the 32 gigabytes. It's not going up dramatically or anything like that. But as we get to the 64 gigabyte SD cards, you can see they're getting close to $20 a piece, which isn't super expensive. The 128 gigs obviously are getting over $30 a piece. And as we go to the 256 gigabyte SD cards, you can see the prices for that one is basically $100, and then the 512 gigabyte SD cards, as you can see, are over $200 a piece. The same thing happens if we look at compact flash card. This is 128 megabyte, a 512 megabyte, and now over $10 we're getting the 16 gigabyte compact flash capacity. As we go up in storage size to 32 gig, you can see now we're getting close to $20 a pop, especially when you throw in shipping and handling for some of these cards. The 64 gigabytes are now well over $30 a piece. So it's kind of doing the same thing as the SD cards. As we get to 128 gigabyte, now they're over $50 a pop. And when we get to the 256 gigabytes, as you can tell, now we're at almost $200 for the least expensive 256 gigabyte drive. Here we have the least expensive USB jump drives, the 16 gigabyte version. With shipping and handling, they're about $7 a pop. But if you look at the 32 gigabyte version, they're only like a buck or two more. You might as well get the 32 gigabyte version if you're looking for a USB jump drive. It's just a better bang for the buck. When we get into the 64 gigabyte version, you're going to be paying a little over $10 a pop. Still, they're inexpensive compared to the SD card and compact flash. When you get the 128 gigabyte version, they end up being a little over $15 a pop. And then when you get to the 256 gigabyte version, you're going to pay about $50 a piece for them. They're still pretty inexpensive, like I said, compared to the SD and compact flash. Even if you look at the 512 gigabyte, you're paying about $200. Now we're looking at DVDs, and this is pretty cool. You can get a 50 pack of 4.7 gigabytes, a single layer DVD, for under $20. So that's not a bad deal at all compared to the other storage devices we've looked at so far. Like I said, this would be more for archiving. And you can get the dual layer ones, the 8.5 gigabyte, for actually less than 50 cents a piece. If you look at the price on there, you get 50 of them for $22.95. So as a storage option for archiving, the DVDs are actually a lot less expensive than an SD card. Not that anybody would use an SD card or a USB jump drive for archiving, but as you see the Amazon, the 100 pack, you're getting them basically for about 22 cents a piece. So that's pretty good, and that type of storage medium will work good for a lot of different purposes. And now we're actually getting into some of the Blu-ray discs, the 25 gigabyte Blu-ray disc. As you can tell, they're less than a buck a pop. They're like actually less than 50 cents a piece now. They're almost the same price as a DVD. So some people might say, hey, I'd rather just get Blu-ray discs than DVDs for archiving purposes. And that's great. I mean, it's a nice option for people to have if they want to have the, reliability of an optical drive versus like a flash drive, a NAND drive, or like the old mechanical hard drives. And that's why people do like the optical drives. They're a little bit more reliable. There you can see the 50 gigabyte, a 50 pack of them for only $110 basically. So once again, really super inexpensive compared to compact flash, USB, or SD cards. And like I said, these really aren't for everyday usage for reading and writing data. It's more for archiving purposes. We see a Blu-ray burner there for $58.99. So the Blu-ray burners aren't super expensive. You can find them for like $10 less, $10 more. That is about the average price on them. And if you look there, you can get a 10 pack of the 100 gigabytes for $67.80. Basically, those are only costing $6.78 a piece for a big 100 gigabyte disc. And you can also see the 3-pack of the Sony for $31.35. So if you didn't need 10 of them, you only needed 1 or 2 of them, you're getting them for what, about $11 a piece. So as far as storage is concerned, this would actually probably be a better option for a lot of you if you want to archive your data as opposed to use it every day, day in and day out, transferring, files and stuff like that. What you're seeing on the screen now are the least expensive mechanical hard drives I could find, basically $10 a pop. They're going to be a little bit over by the time you throw in the shipping and handling. Some of them are 80 gigabytes, some of them are 160 gigabytes, so that is quite a lot of data. But like I said, if you get those Blu-ray discs, the 10-pack of 100 gigabyte, they're actually less than $8 a pop, so it'd still be a better storage option than these particular units because you are getting 10 of them. Keep in mind you can't read and write to them like you would these hard drives, but that's what I'm saying. It's for archiving purposes, not for everyday use. As everyone knows, external hard drives, whether they're Thunderbolt or USB, are usually going to be more expensive than the internal counterparts. You can get the 1 terabyte internal drives for a lot less than these 1 terabyte external hard drives are. What you are seeing on the screen right now is Sony's Optical Disc Archive drive. At $6,500, most of us are not going to be able to afford a unit like this. This would be good for post-production houses, maybe some broadcast, TV stations and other places where they have to archive a lot of data. As you can see, you can get a 3.3 terabyte drive for this particular unit. The drive is super expensive. The media itself doesn't seem to really be all that expensive. Everyone should be able to look at the screen and see the different storage capacities and the price with them. So like I said, they're really not all that super expensive. I'm guessing in another 2 years from now, the drives as well as the storage devices will have dropped quite a bit in price. It's not like a lot of people are going to go out and buy these, but as long as enough video post-production houses and broadcast facilities use these for archiving, the price should come down. There's also another storage option for post-production houses and broadcast facilities. What you're seeing now on the screen are the Lto Tape Drives, and they are not cheap either for the higher capacity drives. They come in like LTO 3, LTO 5, LTO 10, and the higher you go up in the number, as you can tell by that chart up there, the higher the capacity is. As you folks can tell, the media is not all that expensive when you consider how large a capacity they have for the price. I just want to state that the LTO drives, like 5-6 years ago, I guess people would say they were kind of like a pain in the butt. Because you have to understand, it is a tape. It has to fast forward and rewind to find, the data that you want. To actually take like 1.5 terabytes, though, and to back it up, I seen a YouTube video. It really didn't take all that long. I can't remember. Was it maybe like 40 minutes, maybe an hour, something like that? But I want you to understand, too, these are just for archiving purposes. How hard drives go by milliseconds, for seek time and stuff like that. You got to understand with these tape drives, if you've got something at the beginning of the tape and something at the end of the tape, it's going to take minutes upon minutes to actually find that data. So you couldn't like play 5 layers of the Red 1 codec with these devices. What you do is you store them and archive it, and then actually if you need to re-edit, you have to drop it down to your hard drive. So I just kind of wanted to make that clear. With Sony's Optical Disc Archive drive, you're not going to really edit your video right off the optical disc either. You're going to actually transfer the data to your hard drive. What I'm showing you is a system that can take 10 of those optical disc archive cartridges, and it kind of creates like a library. They have the same thing for the LTO tapes as well. But like I said, you wouldn't be editing off of these particular devices. The reason why some of the Hollywood studios and broadcast arts facilities would use the LTO as well as the Sony archive disc is because they consider it more reliable than using a mechanical hard drive, and solid state drives aren't as reliable as the optical drives either. I don't like the ideal of tapes though, because as everybody knows, tapes can stretch and wear out, or at least with the old analog cassettes, that I grew up with. I know people say, oh, with the digital stuff, it's not like those old analogs. It's not, rubbing against the tape head as hard as it used to, and the pinch rollers and stuff like that. So some people would say these are pretty reliable forms of data storage, the LTO tapes. I would prefer probably the optical drive system from Sony myself, but they both probably work pretty well. They're both, used out in Hollywood and at broadcast art facilities. Some of you might think that in another 2 or 3 years, one of these different formats will probably win out. And I don't doubt that that would be the case, but I wouldn't be afraid to buy either one of these if you really need this type of a system, because they'll both be around for another 4 or 5, probably 6 years. And if you get the LTO and Sony wins out, then hey, you can just transfer all the LTO tapes that you got to the Sony disk archive system. Or if you do the Sony disk archive system and all of a sudden they go bankrupt 3 or 4 years from now, then you could just transfer stuff to the LTO tape. I wanted to show these devices in case somebody out there watching the video really does need huge amounts of storage. It's going to be a little bit pricey, but in another 2-3 years, I don't doubt both these devices will be a lot less expensive. I want to end this video by talking about hard drives as well as Blu-ray and DVDs. Back in 1998, I had a little 4 gigabyte hard drive for my computer, but I bought a CD burner with it as well back then. A lot of people didn't have CD burners way back in 1998. And it was good because I could finally burn CDs of my own music recording, but I actually used the CD burner to archive my audio as well. I didn't really trust hard drives, even though like a couple months later I got 2 8 gigabyte drives and striped them together for a whopping 16 gigabytes. And like I said, this was back in 1998, so that was quite a lot of hard drive space. But even today, I started off with all my media being on 1 CD, and then I had to jump up to 2 CDs. Now, I myself haven't really done a lot of audio recording of my work since about 2002, 2003. I probably have maybe 1 gigabyte, maybe 1.2 gigabytes of data all total on those 2 CDs. And actually, I've got all my stuff actually just on 1 single-sided DVD right now. I just wanted to say, if you had your own home recording studio and you've got a couple different bands you're working with as well, it might be easier for you to just archive it onto a DVD or even a Blu-ray disc. I'm sure a lot of people out there would say, yeah, a lot of recording sessions wouldn't take up more than 50 gigabytes. They probably wouldn't, a lot of them probably wouldn't even take up 1/2 of that. So it's something to think about, rather than keeping it on your hard drive and then having like 3 or 4 different hard drives for backup. You could just burn a lot of it to DVD or Blu-ray disc. I'm not talking about making a DVD that you play in a DVD player or a Blu-ray that you play in a Blu-ray player. I'm talking about just using it as a storage device. I have done some video projects for clients where I could fit the whole thing on a 100 gigabyte Blu-ray disc. And I trust it being on the optical drives a lot more than I trust it being on the mechanical hard drives. And the price of the Blu-ray media is going to come down, as well as the price of the Lto tape drives and the Sony optical archive disc. So it's just something for somebody to think about in the not so distant future. I was just going to add, if you have your own recording studio, you recorded the band, you did the mix down, everything's pretty good, except for they wanted another facility to actually do the final mastering. Instead of putting it on a hard drive or an SD card or even a jump drive, like I said, these Blu-ray disc and DVD disc are going to be a lot less expensive option to just burn it and say, here you go. I know some of you that do video production are saying, I've got clients where their project is like 2.5 terabytes or maybe even 3.5 terabytes, and some of you are saying it's just cheaper for me to store it on actual hard drives. And I'm going to say, if you've got really big video projects, obviously hard drives will be a little bit less expensive. You'll have to store it on probably 3 or 4 different hard drives, because you want backup drives, obviously, in case you're doing the video editing and the hard drive goes corrupt. So it's not going to be for everybody. And I myself have clients too where I've got like 1.5 and 2.5 terabytes of data just for one client. But for some of you, the DVD, Blu-ray, and the LTO tapes and the archive discs from Sony might be a nice option. I want to let people know, I'm sure in the not-so-distant future, we will be getting 400 and 500 gigabyte Blu-ray disc. It's been talked about quite a lot. I'm not sure when it'll actually hit the market. If you have a friend or family member that might be able to gain something from watching this video, please don't hesitate to send them a link, whether it's in an email, on Facebook, or in a private discussion forum.